The buzzer beaters, the crowd, the Cinderellas. College basketball is a beautiful game filled with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The start of every season brings a fresh start for every team and every player. A chance for teams to fold under the burden of their expectations. A chance for teams to receive redemption for a previous season that was cut shorter than they had hoped. And of course, a chance for teams and players expected to do nothing to shock the world. This channel will be dedicated to discussing and analyzing all that goes on in the college basketball world. Welcome to the CBB Report. With the season just beginning, let's go through each conference and rank the teams. Today, let's do our 2022-2023 rankings for one of the deepest conferences in college basketball, the ACC. While I love ranking teams, I do not believe it provides a clear picture of the competition levels between teams. The difference between a team I rank 7 and a team I rank 8 can be extremely marginal, and both teams can probably flip-flop on my rankings. The same things go for 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and etc. etc. That is why I've created a tier list to show off different levels of competition. In the ACC, much like the Big 10 and Pac-12, I have created 5 tiers, the 5th being the lowest and the 1st being the highest. Today, let's rank Tier 5, which I have named Trash and the Trashiest. Wow, this is probably my harshest tier name, but when you look at the 3 teams here, the name makes a lot of sense. Now I want to preface that because of how many teams there are in the ACC, some of these tiers have a little less nuance than the Big 10 or Pac-12. Tier 5 is one of those tiers with slightly less nuance. This is because the worst team in Tier 5 should probably qualify for its own tier. They are worse than the other 2 teams in Tier 5. But that said, all 3 of these teams should be the doormats in the ACC, and the other ACC teams will look to these 3 teams for easy wins. Put simply, the outlook for the season is extremely bleak for these 3 teams. Sorry, Georgia Tech fans, I'm here to tell you that your team is the worst team in Tier 5 and the entire ACC. And by the way, it isn't that close. Josh Pastner became a viral sensation in 2021 for not only leading the Yellow Jackets to an ACC tournament title and March Madness berth, but also for the ridiculously large COVID mask he wore while coaching. Georgia Tech would ultimately lose in the first round of March Madness, but the arrow seemed to be pointing up for Pastner and Georgia Tech. In 2020 though, this all came crashing down as the Yellow Jackets finished 12-20, 5-15 in the ACC, and 14th out of 15th in the ACC. Now Pastner enters the 2023 season seemingly on the hot seat, with his ACC tournament title a memory of the distant past. Pastner has struggled to recruit in his tenure, and this year was no different. Getting South Alabama's Javon Franklin was a good get, and he could break out, but the rest of the class was underwhelming. He also got Lance Terry from Gardner-Webb, and also recruited shooting guard Fred Pauls Bagatskis from Latvia, and a reclassified 2022 center Cyril Martinov. Both Martinov and Bagatskis seem to be long projects. For a team that finished 14th last season and just lost their only 2 double-digit scorers in Jordan Usher and Mike DeVoe, Pastner should have done better. The starting 5 during ACC play will most likely be Devion Smith, Kyle Sturdivant, Debo Coleman, Javon Franklin, and Rodney Howard. But recently they've been playing Lance Terry over Javon Franklin. Unless Terry or Franklin break out, this is a pretty bad front court, with not much depth in the bench. Lance Terry or Javon Franklin, Tristan Maxwell, Jalen Moore, Jordan Mecca, and Miles Kelly will most likely come off the bench. Kelly's a pretty solid bench piece and recently hit a game winner, but the rest of the bench is uninspiring. The backcourt of Sturdivant and Smith is not as bad as the frontcourt, but is still pretty lackluster. While they have gone to a good 4-2 start early on, I believe once they play harder competition, this good start will fall apart, and Georgia Tech will finish 3-17 in the ACC and last in the entire ACC. 14th in the ACC and in the middle of Tier 5 is Louisville. What a rough start to the season the Cardinals are having. They just lost out to Kentucky on DJ Wagner, the number 1 recruit in the 2023 class, lost 3 straight bye games by 1 point to open up the season, and then immediately got blown out by Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati. Louisville only put up 38 points against Texas Tech. Louisville is currently 0-6 to start the season, and they have to play a tough Maryland and then Miami team next at the time of recording. When you're watching this, Louisville may really be 0-8. Put it lightly, it is not the best start to first-year head coach Kenny Payne's tenure. People already had questions about Payne before, and this start has done nothing to calm down those questions. Payne did fine in the recruiting department, recruiting high 4-star small forward Kamari Lands, high 4-star small forward Devin Reed, and 3-star point guard Fabio Basili. Payne did a little better in the transfer portal by getting point guard Hersey Miller from Xavier. Fun fact, that's Master P's son. And more importantly, getting power forward Brandon Huntley Hatfield from Tennessee. Huntley Hatfield was a little disappointing in Tennessee, but he was a former top 25 recruit and was an underrated transfer get for Payne. This team has some okay players, but unless there are unforeseen breakouts, Cardinals just have very few above ACC average players, especially in the backcourt. The starting five should be Elle Ellis, Mike James, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, Jalen Withers, and Sydney Curry. James and Ellis and Withers are all fine players, but not really impact players. As previously discussed, Huntley-Hatfield has all the potential to be an impact player, but we have not seen him do it on the court yet. Finally, Sydney Curry can really be a great player for the Cardinals, but he is very injury prone. If Sydney Curry gets injured and misses most of the season, Louisville may very well end up as the worst team in the ACC. Not much help is coming from the bench either. Devin Ree, Kamari Lands, JJ Traynor, Roosevelt Wheeler, Hersey Miller, and Fabio Basili should all get some minutes, but other than the 4-star freshmen of Ree and Lands, I'm not sure which other players on this bench can make a true impact. Look for Lands especially to try and establish himself. Simply put, this team just does not have enough talent or depth, especially in the backcourt, to be good this year, and they will finish 4-16 and 14th in the ACC. The best team in Tier 5 and 13th in the ACC is NC State. This is another team in the ACC that is kind of a mess, though not as bad as the other two teams below them. The Wolfpack are proving my ranking of them wrong so far though, as they have started off the 2022-2023 campaign going 6-1, with their only loss being a close 6-point loss to number 9 ranked Kansas. So while so far they have made me eat my words, I'm still going to keep them at 13th. Head coach Kevin Keatts is now firmly on the hot seat, thanks to poor recruiting and poor team defense. The 2022 round of recruiting and transfer portal did little to dispel this narrative. On the recruiting front, all Keatts got was high 3-star point guard LJ Thomas. In the transfer portal, Keatts' biggest pickups were center DJ Burns from Winthrop and small forward Jack Clark from LaSalle. He also got center Dusan Mahorcic from Utah and point guard Jarkel Joyner from Ole Miss. Last year, Burns was the Big South Player of the Year, where Burns was great offensively but pretty poor defensively. This won't help Keatts' reputation as a poor defensive coach. Originally, I thought the starting five would be Jarkel Joyner, Casey Morsell, Tarquavion Smith, Jack Clark, and DJ Burns. But it looks like Keatts has replaced Burns with fellow transfer Dusan Mahorcic for more defensive help. The star of his team is Smith. Smith might have been a late first-round pick last year, but inexplicably decided to stay at NC State. Smith was a huge keep for Keatts. The offense will run through Smith, and Keatts runs a fast-paced and fun offensive system that should see Smith pouring in the buckets. Can they stop anyone on the defensive side of the floor, though? The bench will feature DJ Burns, Greg Gant, Breon Pass, Ernest Ross, Ebenezer Dowona, and freshman LJ Thompson. This is an okay bench, with the highlight being Burns, who can give NC State an inside offensive spark and rotate with Mahorcic. Expect NC State to lose many high-scoring games, and though I predict the continued success of Smith, opposing teams will still score buckets at will, which will cause the Wolfpack to lose many games. And they will finish at 5-15 and 13th in the ACC. That is my ACC Tier 5 Trash and the Trashiest rankings. Let me know if you agree or not in the comments. And thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments some video ideas for the rest of the college basketball season. Follow the TikTok, the CBB Report, and subscribe, like, and comment with your thoughts. Where was I right? Where do you think I went wrong? Let me know down below, and thank you for watching.